Hi, teaching friends. My tip for today is about growth mindset. And growth mindset, I'm sure you've probably heard about it. It's about learning from our mistakes. It's about persevering even when it gets hard. It's about growing and realizing that in some small way we can get just a little better every day. It doesn't have to be something that's instant. And I feel like we live in this world right now where everything seems to be instant gratification. We can cook something up in the microwave in just a matter of seconds. We can go somewhere on an airplane, go to another state or another country in a matter of hours. We can order a whole new room's worth of furniture from Amazon and get it in 2 days. And it's just not like it used to be when I grew up, when things took a lot of time and we didn't have that instant gratification. So I feel like for our students that are living in this world where they can get so many things instantly or pretty quickly, that it's great to teach them that some things don't actually happen that way. Some things like learning a new skill, building a relationship, building trust, all of those kinds of things take a lot of time. And it doesn't mean that that's a bad thing. It just means that it takes time to attain those skills, to build those relationships. So I know a lot of this is because growth mindset is on my brain because I've been working on 2 books for growth mindset that come out next fall. But I've done a lot of research on growth mindset, and I just believe so wholeheartedly in it and teach it in my classroom. And so I wanted to share a few little activities that you can do with your classroom as you start the new year. One of them is to teach your kids the word growth spurt. So I made up this word a few years ago, and it basically just means that when you have a mistake, you're really having a growth spurt, because every mistake we can learn from that, and then that allows us to grow. It allows us to figure something out in a new way. It allows us to pivot and figure out a different strategy to try something. So growth spurts are something that we talk about in the classroom. And keeping that in mind, I make this little flip chart that I have in my room, and it's just an inverted 3-ring binder. I'm at home right now, or I would show you the one that I have in my classroom. But you just take a 3-ring binder and flip it inside out, essentially. So it's an upside down V. And then the papers that you would put inside, each page has a different letter on it. So for instance, the first page says Plan A. And then if you flip to the next page, it would say Plan B. And of course, if you flip it again, Plan C, and so on. But I use this in my classroom a lot to teach the kids about flexibility and to teach the kids about the expectation that things aren't always going to happen correctly the first time you try them. So especially when I make a mistake, I'll go over to that flip chart and say, well, I guess I need to go to Plan B. So for example, if my technology isn't working or something that I had planned gets changed, then I just simply go over, no big deal, I'm just gonna go to Plan B. And then sometimes Plan B doesn't work and I have to go to Plan C. And as you know, there are 26 letters in the alphabet, so it's a good thing that we have lots of different opportunities to change and to improve. So I like to show the kids that, and then they're welcome anytime they make a mistake or they're having trouble in a math problem or whatever, they're welcome to go up and flip the chart as well. And we can just look at it as, instead of being frustrated, realizing it's part of the process to have those trials and errors. And that's how we figure things out, and that's how we get better. So another one that is a great one to do, especially at the beginning of a new year, is, kids have heard of to-do lists, and I am the queen of to-do lists. I love having to-do lists. Well, here, look, I've got a little checklist chart right there. It's empty because all of the other ones are spread out on my desk. But anyway, a to-do list is something that's really important. It can be a to-do list of the steps you're going to take toward a goal or whatever. However, what's fun for the kids is when you tell them about making a to-don't list. And so maybe they haven't heard of that. Maybe you haven't heard of that. But think about a goal that a student might set, and you can go through an example with them and talk to them about, okay, so here are the things that we could do as a to-do list to get closer to that goal. But here are some things we could do that would be a to-don't list if we want to get to our goal. So let's say you have a goal of making more friends this year. And so maybe on the to-do list, you have things like smile more often, be kind to others, give someone a compliment, ask someone to play on recess, those kinds of things. But then on the to-don't list, maybe we have things like don't tease someone, don't roll their eyes when they talk to you, don't be grumpy towards others, those kinds of things. Because if we do those things on the to don't list, then it's not going to help us to get to our goal. So giving a silly example like that, although it may not really be silly, it really is true, helps the kids to kind of understand what you mean when you're having them make a to-do and a to-don't list. And it could be something that's academic or personal, like making friends. Another idea to teach them a little bit more about the growth mindset. If you're familiar with growth mindset thinking, then you know there's a lot of brain research that goes into that, and a lot of talk about the neuroplasticity of our brains and how those neurons, they fire and wire together the more they're used. So in other words, when we're practicing something, those neurons are firing over and over in the same way to each other, and those pathways grow stronger and stronger. So in order to illustrate this in a visual way, you can have the kids just draw, I call it the bumpy brain, and they can just make this bumpy oval on their paper, and that represents their brain. And then they can use little dots to represent some neurons, which we have billions of them, but they can just do 8 to 10 neurons or so. And think of something that they already know how to do really well, that they don't even really have to think about anymore because it's so automatic for them. So maybe tying their shoes. So they have a dot here and a dot here, and they can draw a nice thick line and write on that line, tying shoes, because that's something that is just automatic now. They don't have to think about it. They've learned it, they've practiced it, they do it over and over again, and their brain has a very strong neural pathway for that. But then there might be something that they're not very strong at yet. Maybe they're learning how to do. So you could draw maybe a dotted line or a very faint thin line with a pencil and have them do that. But then as they practice those things and as they feel like they're getting better, maybe they could pencil that in a little bit stronger, a little bit thicker as that happens. You can demonstrate this also like with a thin piece of string, and how, you wouldn't want to take your dog for a walk on this thin piece of string. However, if we start learning things and practicing things and make that string longer and thicker and stronger, then eventually, we could braid some strings together to demonstrate this. We could finally get out a big rope to show them that now this is very strong. It's a strong connection. So we could walk our dog with it if we wanted to. But one way that you can demonstrate the power of practice and the power of progress and how that makes us feel and how that makes us smarter is you can teach them something and just limit it to 5 or 10 minutes a day. Have the class vote on it. Maybe it could be learning how to write the Roman numerals from 1 to 20. Maybe it's learning the sign language alphabet. I always teach my kids the sign language alphabet. Maybe it's learning their numbers from 1 to 50 in a different language. Like I teach my kids the Spanish numbers. So you could pick something like that, a skill that would be a really cool thing to know, but they might not necessarily know yet. And so you could teach something like that. That's a fun thing. And just do it for like 5 or 10 minutes a day, just to kind of demonstrate, at the very beginning, they have those dots and they have a very thin dotted line. But then each day as you practice that 5 or 10 minutes, then maybe after a week, they can make that line a little bit thicker. Maybe they're starting to learn it with a little bit more automaticity. So maybe they can write the first 10 Roman numerals without having to reference back to their cheat sheet that has them on it. Or maybe they can do the sign language alphabet without watching you now. And so things like that, until after you've practiced for 2 or 3 weeks, maybe that's a nice thick line. And maybe they can count from 1 to 50 in Spanish with no problems at all. Maybe you could even have them count by 2s or 10s, and they could do it if they have that practice and they've learned it well enough. So those are kinds of things that can demonstrate to them that the more we practice, the more we indeed learn things. One other thing that is kind of fun to do for growth mindset thinking is to do a little matchup. So have some, just take note cards or something and write growth mindset statements on it. Like, I can get better if I practice, something like that, versus fixed mindset cards that might say, I'm no good at math, or I can't sing. Those kinds of things that when you say them, it's a very fixed mindset. You're saying that this is the way you are, you can't grow, you can't learn, you'll never get better at it. And so then when you have very specific fixed mindset things, you can have their counterparts on the growth mindset cards. That maybe the counterpart to I can't draw is I can practice my drawing and watch YouTube tutorials and get better at my drawing. Or maybe if it's I'm terrible at math, maybe the growth mindset part is if I keep practicing my math facts, I'll get better and better every day and learn more math facts every day, something like that. So you can have a whole bunch of these, and then you can do, I like to do a silent matchup, very fun, and nice and peaceful in the classroom. So everyone has to take a card, and without talking, they have to try to find their match. So they're finding their counterpart. And then you can take these and you can put them on a chart in the room. Like, this is the growth mindset side and this is the fixed mindset side. So once they find their counterpart, their partner, then you can put those up together and you can have a discussion about, well, why is this growth mindset thinking and why is this fixed mindset thinking? And what is better about the growth mindset approach that will help us in learning those things that we might have had a fixed mindset about in the past. So I hope that some of these tips have helped you, and I'm so excited for these growth mindset books to come out. One of them is a picture book called Y is for Yet, and it's an alphabet book. And it has some of these activities and more in the back. But then I also have one for middle grade, and that one is called Mindset Power, because we truly do have a lot more power when we have a growth mindset. So I hope that you all have a blessed new year. Okay, I made it through that whole 10 minutes in one take, and then Tucker decided he needed to jump up here, so I wanted to end a little bit better. So again, as I was saying, have a blessed 2020, and I hope to connect with all of you many times in the new year.